purpose of government is to protect the sovereignty of the individual. And when we fail to do that, we end up with all manner of evil.
What is the political endgame of your party? Do you see, for example, your party winning seats in the next general election when it is constitutionally due?
I'm sure we will. It is highly unlikely that the UIC will not win a considerable number of seats in the next parliament. And I'll tell you why. The Jamaican people are now much wiser than they were 77 years ago when they first elected the GLP in 1944. They're much wiser than they were in 1962 when they first elected again another GLP government. They're much wiser than they were when they elected 18 and a half years of PNP government. They now see clearly that these two parties are simply there for power and to empower and enrich a few at the expense of the many. The UIC is going to destroy that system and is going to devolve the economy back to the Jamaican people and empower the Jamaican people. So we're going to give them, for the first time in the history of our nation, control of their country and control of their destiny. We're taking it back from the parties and giving it back to the people. So definitely, you're going to see a groundswell. In fact, right now, people are leaving the GLP and the PNP and joining the UIC. They're joining the independent thinkers who were already leaving the group of undecided and the group who have become disenchanted, the 62%. They are becoming aware of the UIC and are joining. And we're bringing together Christians, Rastafarians, Maroons. Even have Maroons now getting ready to run for office, which is unusual.
But it can be argued that it takes cash to provide police services. How would the UIC raise the additional revenue to pay our police officers and teachers as you have proposed?
Excellent question. What the UIC has done is to look at government and realize that it is too fat. The government is too costly. One of the biggest costs in government is corruption. So that's why we said earlier on that we're going to look at the system, the structure. So we're going to create a non-partisan constitutional republic that shrinks the government to the right size and shift the resources that are being wasted right now and that are being corruptly stolen and bring that into funding our police, funding our teachers, funding our nurses, so that we have a quality healthcare system, a quality education system, and a police service that truly protects and serves the people of Jamaica.
And what is that right size?
Well, it's hard for me to give you just a specific number, so we're going to go through the entire structure. And so, for example, we have many boards. These are really political appointment opportunities. We need to get rid of these excessive boards and narrow the government and focus government on the area that government should focus on, and then put the rest back into the private sector. Let them go and learn to earn their income as opposed to sitting down and just milking the taxpayers.
And in regard to the political philosophy of your party, is it that your party is more pro-business? Is it more social democracy? Where do you see your party falling on the spectrum of perspective that exists?
Yes, so we're more pro-rights. We're pro-individual. We're pro-protecting the rights of every individual to their life, their liberty, and their property. We're where every government should be. The purpose of government is to protect the sovereignty of the individual. And when we fail to do that, we end up with all manner of evil, as we have seen in the Jamaican context. If you solve the individual problem, you solve the community problem, you solve the national problem. So we have to start looking at people as individuals instead of aggregate statistics. Let's make sure every individual, for example, one of our key programs, which is to designate the GCT to dealing with poverty alleviation, is to make sure that every child receives the nutrition, the education, and the health care they need. Why? If you don't treat the nutrition factor properly, they can't learn effectively. And if they can't learn effectively, they can't become productive and effective citizens. And so we're going to make sure children are taken care of. We also want to get rid of the crown lands and divest those lands and put those lands in the hands of the people by making sure that every Jamaican family becomes a property owner. When people are property owner, they change their behaviors. And also they have a right to this. Why is it that we have some politicians having hundreds and hundreds of acres of lands and many Jamaicans don't have anything?
To administer a program of that nature where you are redistributing land will take an expanded bureaucracy to achieve it. Given that the UIC's philosophy is shrinking the size of government, don't you think it may be counterintuitive or counterproductive to then propose such a massive redistribution program?
If your assessment is correct, yes, but your assessment is not correct. So our approach is not to create a massive bureaucracy. Our approach is to ensure, following the Singaporean model, to ensure that every citizen becomes a property owner. Property owner doesn't mean you own a physical piece of land, it means you now have a home. We're going to put most of our homes in high-rise buildings on lands that are not suitable or the best lands for agriculture. We're going to leave our agricultural lands and preserve as much of that as possible for organic agriculture, for water harvesting, and for energy capture. So we can have greater energy security, food security, and water security in Jamaica. So it's really very strategic, it's not willy-nilly. So we're going to make sure that we build organic farming again in Jamaica as a key driver of the economy. So Jamaicans will now have the land working for them working it, and now having their nice condos in areas that are not for farming. So you're gonna have a model where more Jamaicans now have a 2 or 3 bedroom home in a condo structure. We're going up and preserving our land mass for organic farming and making Jamaica the organic food capital of the world.
And you had shared that you admire the Singaporean model in
Yes.
terms of housing, but in Singapore it's one political party that has been in office since 1965,
Yes.
and they are oftentimes called a sort of nanny state, where the state plays a very big role in the lives of citizens. Given that you have shared in the past that you are pro-rights and pro-individual, then is it an admiration for this model and an attempt to replicate aspects of it here, opposed to your constitution of being a rights-based and being limited states?
No, there's no contradiction. As a matter of fact, a wise leader such as Lee Kuan Yew goes around and look at other countries. I've had the privilege to travel to Ghana, to Germany, to the Netherlands, to China, to Myanmar, and France, and so on. And what I look for is what works. Let's be pragmatic, what works. So in Singapore, they have an excellent model of making 98% of their citizens property owner. We're going to build on that model. They have an excellent model of eliminating corruption from government. We're going to build on that model. They have an excellent model of making sure that their students are highly competent and qualified. We're going to build on that model. We're not here to simply take a position to say, well, Singapore has some bad spots, we're not going to look at anything they do. We will learn from everybody. We'll learn from the Americans, learn from the Chinese, learn from the Singaporeans, learn from the Germans, learn from the Australians. And we're going to make sure that Jamaica now takes all the best things from these countries, leave out all the bad things, protect the rights of individuals while building a strong economy, a rights-based economy, an economy that protects the individual from the state, while at the same time having the state do only what the state can do and do them very well.
And if you could select one single issue to prioritize, or that would be the center of focus, what would that issue be?
That one issue will be the system of governance, because that is where the biggest problem is. We currently have a system which concentrates power in the hands of the Prime Minister's office, which makes MPs subservient to the Prime Minister, which makes senators possibly controlled by the Prime Minister and opposition leader, a system which allows corruption because of the way appointments are made, a system which undermines the judiciary. So we're going to change that to a non-partisan constitutional republic that segregates powers effectively and ensures that corruption becomes a thing of the past and a major element of Jamaica's politics. If we can curb corruption through system changes, which we can, as an accountant I know that, because good companies with good controls are very profitable and successful because of the controls. A country is no different. If you put in place good controls in a country, then you have better outcomes. You have less incidences of corruption, the cost of corruption is lower, and now you can move that to the people by pushing that, the monies that would have been lost into the real economy to help small and medium enterprises to grow, provide jobs, and create a better quality standard of living for all Jamaicans.
So you're taking out the chief executive from the legislature. Is that the
Yes.
that you have here?
Yeah, you're going to have the chief executive is going to be now a directly elected president, 3 vice presidents for each of the counties, which we don't have now, an elected senate, so senators are now going to be elected. MPs will no longer serve as ministers of government. We're going to have qualified and competent nominees that comes from the executive that are vetted by the Senate and then voted in or out of office by the House of Representatives. So now you're going to have 3 parts of the House that are very strong. The 14 senators are going to come down from 21 to 14. 14 elected senators, no longer appointed. Right now they're appointed by the Prime Minister and the opposition leader, which taints them, which undermines them. Instead, they're going to be elected 14 for one for each parish. They're going to focus on their parish and look at making sure that whatever budgets, whatever processes, whatever legislation, how will it affect my parish? And they're answerable to the people of their parish. We're going to have 3 vice presidents in the executive elected by county, independent of the president. So they're going to be in the executive to truly represent the counties, the parishes that are in their counties. They're going to have the 63 members of parliament being elected independent of party. They're no longer going to be dependent on party for money or for campaigning, because we're going to have a 100% publicly funded campaign system that funds the individual who's running, giving him or her the same and equal platform to all the other candidates. So now we're going to focus on content of your character, your platform or your manifesto, and your ability to deliver that, as opposed to the buying of votes or the party being an influential element in the process. So we're really changing the system to make it work for the Jamaican people, to make it more transparent, more efficient, more effective, and less divisive. Because now the party will have less of a role in the process. They can talk, but they can't fund the candidates. They can't go and buy votes at the local level, because all of that now is gone because of the new publicly funded model that we bring in place.
And how do you plan then to now connect with the average Jamaican? You see where existing political parties have groundswell of support or have political machinery on the ground. How do you in turn intend to overcome those existing advantages that established political parties have?
They have helped us. They have so failed the people now that all of their ground mechanism is falling apart. What we have done, we have connected with the people to the point where, without us buying any votes or buying people, people are coming to us. I want to create a UIC group in my community. So you have groups across the country now being formed, UIC groups, without any involvement from the party itself. They just seem to come to us and we want to form this group. And they're forming their groups of 12 and 24 and 50 and saying, come out and meet us. And so now I get to go out and meet these individual groups, and other members of the team get to do that. And they're doing it without us buying them, because they finally realize that we, the people, must own the party. So instead of them looking for politicians to give them money, they, the people, are putting their time, their talent, and their treasure where it counts.